houses taxes, budgets, savings accounts, free spending, debt. It's so stressful. And I, as a parent, want to give my children a better background in it than the one I was given. If you're in the same boat, this may be the video for you. I'm Jacqueline. This is Homeschool Hangout, and today we are talking about how we taught our kids money management, the good and the bad. If you're interested, stick around. Thumbs up, like, subscribe, buy me a coffee, all the things, blah, blah, blah. And let's get into it. First off, this is part of a collaboration with other homeschoolers here on YouTube. So when you're done, not yet, don't leave yet, but when you're done watching this video, check out the playlist in the bottom and let's get into it. Okay, so like I said, money management, so many of us feel we were not really taught or equipped very well in it. And I personally wanted to do better with my kids, as did my husband. And money's a big deal. Money, to steal from Cabaret, money makes the world go round, world go round, world go round. And it's not the most important thing, but it can really affect how you live your life, live your missions, live your principles, everything. So we kind of started addressing it very, very young with our children. But at the same time, we didn't want them to be slaves to it. We didn't want them to be too motivated by it. And we didn't want them to be afraid of it. So I actually went and researched this video with my children and kind of like, what exactly did we do? Because here's my secret. I didn't necessarily use a curriculum. I didn't use a book. There were books, but I didn't really use a book. But it was a lifestyle. So we'll start with that. To me, your best tool for teaching money management is a lifestyle of talking about money, demystifying it, take its power away, but talking about it and talking about it in all aspects. Did my kids know what we have in the bank account? No, they still don't. But we talked about handling money every day. So kind of like the most important thing most of my kids agreed with is our allowance system really taught them a lot. We addressed tithing versus giving versus long-term savings that they have to keep doing even after they're adults living in our house, because that is their, get out of jail free card. If they need to move out, they have money. And free spending, short-term savings, all of that. That was a huge, huge part of their money education, because it was like the boots on the ground part of it. It was the, here's money, how are you going to use it? Let us help you in some aspects and let you fall on your face in others. Which means both my daughters learned a lot from this in specific ways. My 20-year-old daughter was babysitting once a week for a homeschool group and walking to and there, and she took her free spending and spent every dime on it at 7-Eleven. And that's fine. That was free spending. She could do what she wanted with it. Now she both looks back and goes, I'm glad I did it then versus being an adult and blowing a huge portion of money. But also it helped her find that balance between not feeling deprived and still having money left. But it also taught her sister something. We have savings minimums. We do. And like I said, that might be more of another video because it's such a huge philosophy idea behind it. But because we want them to get in the habit of not feeling deprived, but you automatically save. And she says, but the idea of, since I'm saving this money, I can spend everything else however I want, go crazy with it. She went a different route with it. She instead says, I want to have these experiences. And that's what I'm spending my free spending on. And when I say that, I don't mean she's taking trips. I mean, she's 16. She's not going anywhere. But I mean, I want to have coffee with somebody. So I'm going to spend the money on that. Versus I just have money to burn. I, want to buy a present. I want to wear a dress, but for this thing, for this reason, for these things. And she has found that she's actually saved more money that way than just looking at it as free spending. So that's helped her. And that is a huge part. In our house, once you get a regular job, you no longer get allowance, but you still have the same spending rules for the most part. And what that really means is, like, I'll use my 16-year-old as an example. We say that no more than 25% of your money can be free spending. Everything else has a name. Well, as she's now saving for future car insurance, she's not using a full 25% of that free spending. She's using closer to 10 to 15%. And that counts like presents and stuff that when she was younger came out of her short-term savings. So the system grows, but their allowance only goes until they get a job. So we'll just say that. So that was a huge part of their money management training, so to speak. The rest of it was a lot of media and conversations. I mean, we did do the go to the grocery store, talk about per unit costs. They were very involved in grocery shopping, very involved with, okay, I need this can of beans, and I don't care what can of beans I get. You guys find me the best price. And we would talk about sometimes when it's like, I need a half a cup of beans. You guys find me the best price, which may not be the idea of the lowest price per ounce, because if I have 3 times the amount that I'm not going to use and I'm going to throw it away, is that worth it? So they also got to analyze that. And we really got to see some of that in effect when my 20-year-old went with her robotics team out of town. And she was the girl, basically, who went with another mom, and they were going and getting food at the grocery store. And she was able to analyze at that level. I think it was cheese. She tells me the story. They needed something like, 20 slices. Or was it 20 or 30 slices of cheese? And they found a box that was 96 versus a box that was a different amount. And Nerd Pie went, well, we should get the 96 box. And the mom was like, but we don't need that much. And she had figured out to the point that going, we actually end up spending less money than buying 6 packages of the smaller amounts of cheese, because we could still throw X amount away and have spent less money. And so those kinds of analytical thinking, it's also a great time to work on your math skills. You introduce it at more and more complex levels as they get older. So that practicality in a store is very important. But media was also important. So one of the big ones for us, because when they were younger and going to choirs and soccer and different things like that, we were in the car. And we were about 25 minutes away from our church. We were at church like 4 days a week at the time, between Awana and Bible studies and everything. And so we'd listen to Dave Ramsey, who has gone more off the rails since then. But it served his purpose. I don't care. And we would listen to these calls, and then we'd listen to his advice. Then we would turn off the radio and we'd talk about it. And we would talk about where I don't agree or where I do agree. I believe in making a budget. I believe in a lot of those things if you can do them. But we'd also have the conversations about good debt versus bad debt. If you can't fix a car, the idea of getting a car that could stop running any minute, if you need a car to get to jail, get a car to get to jail, to get to work, it might be good debt for you to get a loan. I don't like it, and I try to discourage it, but it might be. And it's one of those things of there was a lot that I both agreed and disagreed with. And so I'm not saying it like we watched Dave Ramsey or listen to Dave Ramsey to tell us how to do it. It introduced real life situations. We also talked about the fact of how easy it is to get into those situations. Especially, I'm in California. And when I say that, I mean that 25% of your salary for doing things like buying a house sounds great until you live in California. And even Crown, the books say in different areas, this is not feasible. And I think they've adjusted it even for the base level, like 35% or 40% of your income. So we talked about that. We talked a lot about student loans. If you've ever listened to Dave Ramsey, there are so many student loan conversations. And we talked about the difference between when a student loan is a good investment versus when it might not be a good investment. And some of that comes back to our mentalities on college. And I'm a believer in college if you know what you're doing with it. I don't believe you need to go to college just to keep you busy. And so that was a huge one for us. We also did a lot of things kind of watching, and I've got a little list. Eat Well for Less. I'll include some links over on Homeschool Hangout XYZ. It is a show out of Britain, and I think there's a version out of New Zealand. But what it is they take somebody's grocery budget and food budget and analyze where they're overspending. You know, are they eating out a ton? Are they only buying brand names? Because you've got those families that are all about brand names no matter what. Or are they buying pre-made food that would be really easy to do yourself? Now, don't get me wrong. I buy pre-made food for some time. And they're very specific things. Like I buy orange chicken. I buy it pre-breaded. I do. It's our easy meal. Why? Not because I think it's a good deal in comparison to homemade cooking, but because I think it's a great deal in comparison to eating out, frankly. So we'd watch Eat Well for Less. We love them. They are, was it Chris? And we love them. They're fun. We watch a lot of British television. I'm looking at my list. Things like the Marie Kondo-esque type shows. And what I'm saying by that is hoarders is too much. Don't do hoarders. Hoarders will scare them. But some of those decluttering shows where those are, yes, great ways to show you how to organize stuff. The first part is a great way to show your kids, here's all the stuff these people have that they've realized they don't need. Now, I fully understand and recognize that I am sitting in front of bookshelves in an office that is loaded with junk I don't need. I understand that. I lean a little bit towards the hoarder side versus the minimalist side. But it's kind of nice to look at other people's. We also did The Profit. I feel like it taught them, if you don't know this about me, I kind of feel like we should be running our lives more like we would run a business. So there's some of that. And it helped them with business. I'm big on entrepreneurial stuff. And Kitchen Impossible and all of that of why businesses fail. And seeing that in our own thing. Now, as they got older, we really started having big conversations about college and budgeting. And what I mean by that is we don't pay for college. We just don't. And we frown upon student loans. Kind of like if you're living at home and getting help from us, we don't want you taking student loans here at home. Now, if you wanted to go to Stanford, one, and I'm going to say this, don't come for me. If you're in my position that I was in, I wanted to be able to stay home if I got married right out of college and had kids. I knew that would be my life path if I found the right guy. I was totally cool with the idea of having a career. That is not an issue for me. But I didn't want to have to put off having kids or have to work to pay my student loans. And so I had really honest conversations with my kids, especially my girls, about that. Now, my husband took student loans, but he knew he was going into software, that the day he got out of college, he probably could get a decent paying job that could cover the student loans. And it was an investment. It was a business investment in him. And it was well worth it. But we start talking pretty early about what will it cost to go to college here. And I start having meetings with my kids probably 7th, 8th grade about what their dreams are, what they would like to do someday. Do they want to consider a high pressure school and a highly competitive school? If so, let's tailor things towards student loan, and not towards student loans, but towards scholarships and towards budgeting. All my children who've gone on to college wanted to stay here locally. So we start having really real conversations about how much is college? How much is a budget? Now, in our home, you can live at home as an adult, even if you're not in college, but you're either paying with grades or paying a rent. Now, our rent is very low. We haven't had to do much of it, but that is our deal because we don't necessarily want our kids moving out right after they graduate either, because houses are expensive and we'd like them to be able to save as long as it works for all of us. We also jokingly say you can't live at home if you don't want to be an adult when you're an adult. So, there's all that. But we start talking about budgeting. We start talking about, here is what an apartment would cost. I have one child who lives at home, who loves us. We love having her here, but she yearns that independence a little bit more. But as she says, it's not financially worth it to her to move out because it's like, let's talk about what apartments are in Fresno. Let's talk about what food is, what bills are, what PG&E is versus in an apartment you usually don't have to pay water and garbage. And so we start having those conversations pretty young. In high school, we expect them to find out what the local rents are, what houses are, and start putting that together. So we don't really do a curriculum, but I definitely consider their economics well met. My children know how to balance a checkbook, how to do taxes. That's the other thing. Our kids are all expected to get jobs about 16, and which means we help them do their taxes the first time they're home. Now, we're very blessed. We have a very lovely accountant who offers to do our kids' taxes and does do them because we don't do our taxes anymore. It's a little complicated. But we walk them through that usually the first year, and we walk them through the forms even when he does them of like, you understand this is your deduction. And we're very clear on like some things we'll take the deduction for that they qualify for because they don't qualify for as much of it. And then we give them their portion of the deduction out of it. But we have those very frank conversations. And I really think that that has helped my kids understand finances a little bit better. It doesn't mean that your kids are always going to do what you want. It doesn't mean your child's necessarily going to be a mini mogul by the age of 20, but it starts them off on a good path. Now, we also added to that of The Millionaire Mind, and was a book that my kids read quite a bit, especially my 20-year-old. And those types of books are great, but the TV shows, those are not the core of our money management education. It is walking hand in hand with them, teaching them how to do it. So this has been a very long video. I hope it hasn't gone too long for any of you. If you've watched to the end, do me a favor, just leave me a comment letting me know you watched to the end because I'm very curious. And I will talk to you guys later. Make sure you check out the playlist in the comments. Bye.